So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night at the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing American Fiction. But just before I do that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, which is, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello to my viewers, but prefer to listen to your podcast on Spotify, well, even look, as you can also listen to this podcast on Spotify, that's Night at the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to this podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel. Yes, you can watch this podcast on my YouTube channel at Night at the Movies on that platform as well. Likewise, wherever you may be watching or listening to the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course. And please leave me with some feedback on things to improve on in future podcasts, because there are always things to improve on, and feedback is, as ever, much appreciated. So, let's get into it, shall we? American Fiction. So, first things first, I should say, I knew barely anything about this film before I saw it, other than the fact it was getting Oscar buzz, because I did see the film before I actually got any Oscar nominations. I saw it earlier this week, and I barely knew anything about it, other than this one image I'd seen from it in the marketing. I knew that Jeffrey Wright was in the film, and I knew that it was getting a lot of praise in America where it had already been released, and a lot of people were saying it was up for Academy Awards, and now has been nominated for Academy Awards for Best Picture. I think it's been nominated for Best Original Screenplay, and Jeffrey Wright has also been nominated for Best Actor, alongside Sterling K. Brown, who has also been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this film too. So, I didn't really know what to expect going into watching the cinema the other day, even to the point that I didn't know this was the film I was going to watch in the cinema, because I went to one of these surprise screenings at my local Odeon, where they call it a screen unseen, and I'd heard a lot of people online, seen a lot of people online, should I say it was going to be American Fiction. Say they could guess the clues, because Odeon put out clues when a screen unseen is happening. They put out clues to what the film could be, and they guessed through the clues that it had to be American Fiction. So when I heard it was that, I was like, okay, I'll go and see it, because they're getting a lot of Oscar buzz. Some Oscar films work for me, some don't, but hopefully this one will. And the film is directed by Cord Jefferson, and this is his directional debut. Wow. And the film stars the likes of Jeffrey Wright, Sterling K. Brown, and I say Ray. Apologies if I mispronounce her name there wrong at the end. And the Google plot synopsis for the film goes as follows. Monk, played by Jeffrey Wright in the film, who is our protagonist, is a frustrated novelist who's fed up with the establishment that profits from black entertainment that relies on tired and offensive tropes. To prove his point, he uses a pen name to write an outlandish black book of his own, a book that propels him to the heart of hypocrisy and the madness he claims to disdain. And that's pretty much all you need to know about American Fiction before seeing it. And honestly, I absolutely loved this film. I couldn't believe the effect it had on me when it ended. I was glued to the screen right to the last second. It is a fantastic film, and the thing is, I was sat there in the first half an hour to 45 minutes of the film thinking, okay, this is good, it's okay. It's not totally working for me, but it's okay. And then when we got to about the hour mark in the film, I found myself emotionally connected to the characters, the story. I found myself laughing out loud. I found myself thinking a lot about what the film was saying as well, what the messages and the themes that the film was tackling, because it touches on these themes that in society are kind of taboo. We don't really talk about them too much. We feel like we can't talk about them too much. And then this film tackles them in such a way which is really funny and also thought-provoking. All these themes surrounding racial stereotypes in the media, and how, black people have to play up to these racial stereotypes in order to attract white audiences, in order to attract people who are white to their products. That's really what the film tackles. Those sort of themes is what this film tackles, and it does it so well. It does it in a way where it's really funny and really on point, and you're sat there thinking, But this is what it's like, though, isn't it? I mean, I was sat there and I was kind of astounded watching this, going, wow, this is opening up my mind to new themes, the things I hadn't really thought about before, and it's doing it in a really clever, funny and well written way, because this is a very, very well written film. And I was genuinely surprised by how witty the dialogue was, how sharp the dialogue was, how tight so many moments were, and how moving the film was as well. This film proves the power of great writing. I have to get the writer up here right now. I've got the cast list up on IMDb. What's the writer? It's written by Cord Jefferson and Percival Everett. Apologies if I mispronounce any of those names. They do a great job writing this film and making it so poignant, so on point in so many moments, and really, really funny. I mean, I've enjoyed some comedies over the past year. The one that comes to mind right now is Bottoms, which came out last November in the UK, and which I found far funnier than I expected to. This is a funnier film. And the thing is, though, it's not a straight-up comedy. There are some emotional and heartbreaking moments. You know, there's a storyline which we follow surrounding Jeffrey Wright's character's brother, who I think is called Carlson, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we follow his storyline, and he is gay, but he never got to tell his father that he was gay before his father passed away. And it's quite... I mean, it's not quite an emotional storyline. It's actually a very emotional storyline. The way it's incorporated into Jeffrey Wright's storyline was done very well. And Sterling K. Brown, who plays Jeffrey Wright's brother in the film, is excellent. The way he changes emotion from happy to this person who's full of life to this person who is at a crossroads in his life too is done remarkably well. And, you know, when he was nominated for an Oscar, I was like, oh, yeah, I can completely see why. I mean, he probably won't win for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars this year. It'll probably be Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, and well deserved in my opinion. But Sterling K. Brown deserves to be on that list because he is simply excellent in this film. He is really something, and every time he's on screen, you never quite know how he's going to act, and he just makes you... His performance draws you to that character. And the same with Jeffrey Wright, who... I mean, I love Jeffrey Wright in the likes of Westworld. We loved him in The Batman is another thing I saw him in. He was in The French Dispatch, the Wes Anderson film, which I enjoyed him in. I didn't have a huge role in that. I've seen him in films here and there, which I really enjoyed him in. But he's never really played a lead role in anything I've seen him in at all. You know, he's not a lead role in Westworld, neither is he a lead role in The Batman. He's a very big supporting role in both of those things, but he's not got a leading role in either of those things. He is the lead in this film, and going into the film, I was like, is Jeffrey Wright going to be a good lead, though? Because he's a damn good actor, but can he lead a film? Yes, he bloody can. He is fantastic in the film, and he gives a very subtle and at the same time though magnetic performance where again you're constantly drawn to him. He plays it in such a way where it's just the littlest of his facial expressions. You're trying to catch them, and he's great in the film. He really captures the energy of it, and he carries so much of the film. Not that the rest of the film is bogged down, but at the same time, though, I think if he was in it, it'd be a very different film. And I think the casting is perfect with Jeffrey Wright. And I think Jeffrey Wright himself is great in the film, and no wonder he's been nominated for lead actor at this year's Academy Awards. Like Sterling K. Brown, though, I don't think he will win. I think it's either going to be Cillian Murphy or Paul Giamatti, and I have seen the holdovers, now, which Paul Giamatti was nominated for, and I'll give my view of that sometime in the next couple of days. I've got people at my house right now, so I'm currently recording the daytime right now, so I'm actually having to record this just as we're getting into the night. That's why the lighting in this room is getting slightly dark, so I don't know when I'm going to find time to do my view of the holdovers in the next couple of days, but look out for that when it comes out. But going back into what I was saying, even though I don't think he's going to win the Best Lead Actor Oscar at this year's Academy Awards, I think he is a very worthy addition to that Best Lead Actor category at this year's Academy Awards. I think he is worthy of being in that category. In fact, I would say he's probably third in the race between Cillian Murphy, Paul Giamatti. I'd say he's third. I think Cillian Murphy's first, I think Paul Giamatti's second, and I think that Jeffrey Wright is third, because he is really, really great in the film, and he drives it. You know, his performance, I mean, it's one which has really stuck with me. And his character arc too, the character arc that Jeffrey Wright's character was, Jeffrey Wright's character called right now, Monk. The character arc of Monk throughout this film, I mean, that's his nickname in the film. The character arc that he goes on, the journey that he goes on, is also really something when you look back on it. And it's a really unexpected film, and I mean that in the best way, because I came out of it going, what a film! Just what a film! I mean, the ending is incredible. I was sat there at the ending laughing my head off, and then also thinking about what the last few moments meant. And if you've seen the film, you'll probably know what I mean there. And I was also moved by it. I mean, not only was I moved by the brothers' storyline, but I was also moved by the mother's storyline. The mother of Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown's characters. You know, she is suffering with Alzheimer's in this film, and I'm not somebody who is very familiar with all that. I have had someone in my life who has suffered with Alzheimer's, but I wasn't terribly close to them when that was happening. But even watching that in the film, even watching the character of the mother in the film suffer from Alzheimer's, it was quite shocking at times. In fact, it wasn't quite shocking, it was very shocking. And it was very emotional, and it felt very real too. It didn't feel like someone was acting up, you know, it didn't feel like someone was playing up the Alzheimer's. It didn't feel like the actress, I forgot the name of, I'm going to get up now, just give me a sec. Didn't feel like Leslie Uggams, apologies if I mispronounced her name there. It didn't feel like she was playing up her performance as somebody who has Alzheimer's. It felt very real, and I really admired that, because it added to Jeffrey Wright's character arc in this film. And it also adds to the emotional sense of the film, because even so, that is quite a heartbreaking storyline as you watch it progress, particularly in certain moments where there's one scene that the mother shares with Sterling K. Brown character, who is Jeffrey Wright's brother in the film. That's quite a heartbreaking scene. Even though there are heartbreaking scenes involving the mother in the film, there's also a couple of funny moments in there, a couple of moments of comedic relief with the mother, where, well, I'm not going to go into details because I'll explain it very badly, but there were a couple of moments where I was laughing in the storyline with the mother, because there is some comedic relief there, and I do think the film handles that very well. It does a very good job of balancing all the genuinely hilarious stuff and the genuinely heartbreaking stuff too. It does a great job of balancing both and finding that line between, and not going too far over the line, making the film too funny or making it too sad. It balances everything perfectly, and I was really surprised by it, because I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't seen any trailers for the film. I barely knew anything about it. I didn't know what it was about. I'd heard some people online, which I follow, who really admire the film, and I thought, maybe it won't for me, maybe it won't, because Poor Things didn't really, you know, it's all subjective, but personally I didn't like Poor Things, but I was so happy to come out this film, and when I'm just thinking to myself, you don't get many films like that where the writing is so on point and the messages are so on point. And I mean, the film doesn't have one overall message, but it leaves you with a lot to think about, and it does so in a way which is clever, funny, and thought-provoking, and thoroughly entertaining. This is a film which is well directed, very well directed by Cord Jefferson. I was actually surprised to see that he wasn't nominated for Best Director at this year's Academy Awards. I was really surprised by that. Not to say that the other directors aren't worthy of being in that category, although I would have taken Martin Scorsese out of the Best Directing category this year. I didn't think Killers of the Flower Moon was his best directing film. I think he was in there simply because it's Scorsese, but that's another matter for another day. I'll talk about my opinion on the Oscar nominations when we're closer to the Oscars actually happening. I'll talk about my opinion on the Oscar nominations in more detail sometime in March when the Academy Awards take place. But going back onto what I was saying, Cord Jefferson, I would have nominated him for an Oscar for this film. This is his directional debut, which astounds me because the film has this rhythm to it, and the camera placement and the framing in so many scenes is so on point, and it draws you in, and it is directed with this rhythm to it, which I really, really liked, and that's reinforced by the musical score by Laura Cartman. That's the person who did the musical score for the film. Laura Cartman does a very good job with the musical score and encapsulates that feel that I like to think Cord Jefferson was going for with his direction, where there's this momentum, this rhythm to what's going on. He never really slows down too much. He keeps things at a pace. He doesn't let the comedic scenes go on for too long where they wouldn't be funny anymore, and he doesn't let the heartbreaking and the very emotional stuff go on too long where it wouldn't be, where it would take away from the funny stuff. There's a really great balance where the tone is changed and it doesn't feel like the tonal changes are really inconsistent and don't really work. It's so well directed and so well written. The comedy is funny. That is something I can't say about many films which are meant to be a comedy and a drama. I mean, it's a dramedy. That's what this film is. It's a dramedy. It's a mix of a comedy and a drama. That's what a dramedy is. I just explained there in case people didn't understand what I was going on about. Yeah, there's not many dramedies which are actually really funny as well. And I mean, I went to go and watch Mean Girls, a new musical adaptation of Mean Girls, last week, and I was really disappointed by that. And that's written by a very talented comedic performer in Tina Fey and a very talented comedic writer in Tina Fey, and it wasn't that funny. It really wasn't that funny. I laughed a couple of moments to myself, but I didn't laugh out loud. There were quite a few scenes in this film where I was laughing out loud, and I was surprised by how much I was laughing out loud, because I don't usually do that in the cinema. Sometimes I feel a bit weird laughing out loud in the cinema and no one else was. I mean, those are the people laughing out loud in the cinema this time around, which helped, you know, because when there's one scene in particular, and it's not that funny when I say it out loud or when you write it down on paper or anything like that, but there's one scene where Jeffrey Wright's character is trying to get the name of his book changed, and it's one of the funniest scenes I've seen in cinema. Let's just say that. It's one of the funniest scenes I've seen in a cinema. I was laughing out loud, and I was bursting laughing out loud at the end of the film. I couldn't hold it in. I got to a point where I was literally dying of laughter, and yeah, it's such a funny film. Right, so this is an add-on. One thing I forgot to mention when I was actually doing the podcast, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but I just remembered to mention, well, as soon as I finished recording the podcast, is this. I love the meta jokes. I love all the self-referential jokes. When there are certain moments in the film where you think something's about to happen, particularly towards the end, and I was thinking, oh wow, when the meta jokes happen, this is really clever. And the meta jokes, they shouldn't work. They shouldn't work at all in this film, but they work perfectly. There were so many meta self-referential jokes in this film which made me laugh far more than they deserved to. I loved all the meta side of the film that shouldn't have worked, but did. Anyway, back to the podcast. Not all the comedy worked for me, I will admit. That's probably my one nitpick, if you will. Not all the comedy worked for me, and comedy is probably the most subjective thing ever. So there was a couple of comedy moments in the first half an hour of the film which I was like, I'm not really gelling with that. And maybe I wasn't gelling that. Maybe I wasn't gelling with the comedic moments in the first half an hour of the film because I wasn't completely gelling with the film. And so maybe that's why the comedy wasn't working for me so much. So maybe if I see the film again, I'd have a different experience with the comedy in the first half an hour. But there are so many laugh out loud moments which I really wasn't expecting, and were all also very well written. It is a thought-provoking film, but not thought-provoking in the sense that there isn't really much going on. There's a lot going on in the film, and a lot of the thought-provoking moments actually come in the most entertaining and funniest of moments, which you don't get in many other movies. It's a special film, and it's really heartfelt too. I won't go into much details, but there's something that happens much later on in the film when you see, there's a get-together, let's just say that. If you've seen the film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a get-together later on in the film, although it's more than a get-together, but I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. And that get-together in the film really, It warmed my heart, let's say that. I loved this film. It was one of the most pleasant surprises I've had in this cinema. It was really something special, and it really shows the power of great writing, of how to write a film like this and tackle these themes, but don't do it in a way which is gonna feel too controversial and feel like you're maybe hitting it one way, but instead doing it in a way where it feels right. It's tackling these themes which seem to be taboo elsewhere, which people don't really talk about. They don't feel like they can talk about. And American Fiction approaches and tackles all these themes and does it in a way which is thoroughly entertaining and thoroughly hilarious. And also thought-provoking, you know? It's a really, really great movie, and I can't recommend it enough. I think it opens in cinemas in the UK this weekend, and do yourself a favour and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's led by a magnetic but subtle performance from Jeffrey Wright, which works very, very well. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that American Fiction, you know what? I'm feeling generous today because this was a damn good film. I'm going to say it's a 10 out of 10. Woohoo! It feels good to give a film a 10 out of 10 because I haven't really done that with a new film in a while, maybe since Saltburn. I know Saltburn's slightly controversial now, you know, some people hate it. Personally, it was my favourite film of last year. In this film a 10 out of 10 because even though I did have some small nitpicks with it, mainly that not all the comedy worked to me, I really loved almost everything else in the film. It just ticked all the boxes I wanted it to, you know. I can't really think of anything I would have changed from it. I really loved all the satirical humour. It's a really great satire. It's a really great satire about the way racial stereotypes are presented in the media. It's a very well written satirical comedy that I wouldn't change a thing about. And this, you know, if it came out last year, it would have been up there in my top 3. Undoubtedly, it would have been up there in my top 3. I actually might put it over Oppenheimer. I loved Oppenheimer, but I might put it over that. Yeah, it's really fantastic. And it leaves you with a lot to think about. There's also this movie executive played by Adam Brody in the film, and he's very funny as well. The way he plays into white stereotypes, I really liked that. Yeah, and there's so many moments which are so great, and the whole film is brilliant as well. You know, it's not just the moments. The whole film is great. God, it's a great film that has this rhythm to it, from Cord Jefferson, who co-wrote the film and directed it as well. And, you know, there were some very bold moments in the film, some moments which kind of catch you off guard, and there's great character development, so many great character moments, and it feels real, and it feels like you're really watching these real-life people. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's hilarious, it's heartbreaking, it's heartfelt. It's a 3 H's, and in the way you want it to be. And it's also thought-provoking, but not in a way which might annoy some people. In a way which is entertaining and informative, insightful. It opened my mind up to some different ideas, and also very, very funny. It's a very clever film, and I love it. I can't recommend it enough. American Fiction is absolutely fantastic, and it's a special film. It really is. And I came out of it, and I said to my brother, who I just watched the film with, I went, "What a film!" And I don't say that many times when I'm coming out of a cinema, but I did come out of American Fiction. What a film this film is. And so, all in all, as I've already said, I'm going to say once more that American Fiction is a 10 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen American Fiction, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Maybe you didn't like it at all, and if you didn't, that's completely fair. And let me know why in the comment section below. Or maybe you felt similar to me. Whatever your thoughts are on American Fiction, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. And look forward to many more podcasts. Forgot what I was about to say there. Look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.